Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I want to start off, of course, by saying thank you, a very big thank you. We did this first comic launch, and in this case, I'm really the role of the producer more than anything. But as I mentioned, part of the goal here is to show the math, and what I mean by that is, show kind of how some of these systems work, how you can get into it, put some stuff up. Again, I'm not the first person to do this. There's some really good pieces of advice out there. A number of suggestions were mentioned during the chat that we had for the launch, and we'll put those links up too. A lot of people are trying to help each other out. One of the great things about, and this is actually the appropriate word of community, is that you have a number of people out there who really just want to get more comics into the hands of people, regardless of any of the rest. They just want to get more comics out. They want to make it an easier environment for people to do that. So that's what I'm going to try and toss my hat in the ring a little bit and help as well. But one of the things that's come up, and this is kind of this weird triangle of events where I made some. So first off, when we launched, there's a couple people who came in saying, "Oh, Indiegogo, so you're one of those people." And I every time I see stuff like that, I am disheartened because it is a platform. And to be fair, 100% fair, I feel the same way about Kickstarter. If you put something out on Kickstarter because it works for you as an individual, as a creator, that's your business. Now, there may be consequences of these actions for sure. There's some people who won't support Indiegogo because they believe something about the platform. There's people who won't support Kickstarter because of things that have happened on that platform. And there's definitely some legitimate things. I mean, Kickstarter has made it clear that they will accept some content and not other content. Indiegogo seems a lot more open to take different types of content from whatever your political affiliation is or anything else. But both systems have their flaws. And at the end of the day, and here's my perspective on it, is I would like neither of these. But not because of politics or ideology or who's supporting who or any of that. My goal, and I think this is a goal of anyone who is in business, is you look to cut any parts out of the supply chain that you can. When you've got you as a comic creator have a product, a comic, your goal is to get it to a customer. When I was a retailer in this chain, I knew that if I wanted to prove my value, if I wanted to actually, keep making money, I needed to show that I was actually bringing something to this relationship, not just passing the product from point A to point B. People who are just in that business of passing things along and adding zero value to the equation tend to get taken out because the world wants to remove any areas of friction. Why would you want to share money with an entity that is not providing value? So as a retailer, and I think any successful retail business, they will stress making sure that they can offer things like a pull box, like reservations, like discounts when you buy things, like insightful commentary, whatever I'm joking, of course, but whatever it happens to be, the retailer needs to provide some value more than just, hey, I've got this box, I've put comics on a wall, come in and give me your money. You got to do more than that. In some cases, a retailer, continues to stay in business because they're the only place in town to get those products. But this is an area I've had very heated arguments with other retailers and other business owners on this exact topic. My perspective is you should never run a business where your customers basically have no choice but to use you. What I mean by that is if you're the only comic shop in town, great, but you need to do more than just be the only comic shop in town. You need to provide actual value. You can't just say, well, since I'm the only one that provides this service, that allows me to be a dick. That won't work. You will lose customers. You do not want, I never want a customer to come into the shop feeling like I hate coming here, but it's the only place to go. So when it comes to Kickstarter and Indiegogo, in many cases, these services, provide some help, and there's Zoop as well that's out there, but they provide some help. They provide some framework. They provide some structure. You don't have to have a website. You do not have to have coding skills. You can put your stuff into little pockets. They're going to collect the money and they're going to then redistribute it out to you and everything else. But in the long run, my hope is that, whether you're bolting something onto a Patreon or a Substack, or there's just a kind of third party out there that allows people to come in, vend their products and out, I would like to see something like that. I don't use Kickstarter, Indiegogo holding my nose. I just think that they need to work hard to prove their value to the equation. But where it gets complicated is certainly kind of what we saw during the stream when we launched the comic, is people have this preconceived notion of what these platforms are all about. And again, sometimes not without merit. It is true. The Kickstarter has been selective about, and I'm just using the most non-emotional words I can, been very selective about some of the products that go out. I think, and just bluntly, Indiegogo as a platform, I believe that my belief is that it got a reputation for putting out, for lack of a better word, wrong think books, primarily because it didn't gate the content like Kickstarter did. When some of these books from people that people didn't like started to go out on Indiegogo, there was an effort to try and get them kicked off the platform. There was a deplatforming effort. It failed. As a result, people have worked very hard to brand that campaign as bad. That campaign, that platform. People worked. I said that in a terriblest way. Look, my point here is, I think that because people were not able to get books removed off Indiegogo as an entire platform suddenly got branded as being, the bad people platform. And is that fair? No, of course not. And it's especially silly with a crowdfunding platform because they're not taking the money out of your wallet. It's still your choice to actually pay or not pay. So, and this is always the maddening part of it. You don't have to buy anyone's crowdfunding book. You don't have to support. If you don't support Indiegogo, you don't have to. They are not the only game in town. And if you don't like somebody's book and you're complaining that it's on Indiegogo and therefore you can't support it, you don't like the book anyway. You were never going to support it. This is not a case where there's only one game in town and it just happens to be vended out of a store you don't like. That's silly. But for content creators, I mean, anyone who's selling a comic book, by and large, is going to want to get that book out in front of the most eyeballs as possible. I don't deny there's probably people out there who do view all this as an ideological battle in terms of the book they put out, but most people just want to make money. So to them, this is all a huge, colossal annoyance. And it's made more complicated. I, too, saw this interview that what Heidi McDonald did in The Beat. And what I don't like about it was that, she's interviewing somebody from Zoop. And my perspective is, hey, cool. Another place where you can go get comics, great. The more the merrier. Now, I don't know the policies behind it. I don't know if they're going to be selected. I don't know any of this stuff on Zoop. Haven't looked into it. But anything that is providing more options for people to get comics that's in theory a good thing. Of course, they have to provide a good platform and everything else, but this is not a bad thing to get more options out. More options usually equals good. Taking away options typically means bad. And there's a lot of things in this interview to kind of talk over, but the part that I specifically wanted to draw attention to is this odd little shade that people, like to throw out there. And this is coming from Heidi McDonald. And it's this quote that really frustrated me because as a journalist, this is absolutely the wrong way to present the topic. And it says, Kickstarter has proven its worth and Indiegogo obviously has more mystery about it. But people make a lot of money on that platform and it certainly funds a lot of campaigns. All right, let's dissect this for a second. What is the point of Kickstarter and Indiegogo? The point is to raise money, basically provide a structure and a system to help a creator raise money for their project. If you're making a lot of money on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, it is fulfilling its purpose, its core purpose. When you say Kickstarter has proven its worth, and then it's this line, Indiegogo obviously has more mystery about it. What does that even mean? More mystery about it? This is not a detective thriller. It does not have more mystery about it. It's a platform. Like it or don't like it. Because the next part of that sentence, but people make a lot of money on that platform and it certainly funds a lot of campaigns, then it's doing its job. That's its point. There's this ideological shade being thrown here, and this is McDonald once again kind of pushing on this to basically try and portray one platform as being the legit good platform, Kickstarter, and another platform, Indiegogo, as being mysterious, maybe a little sinister, maybe a problem. And that's a completely asinine way to describe it. And it actually does harm to the interview, because here's this guy who's basically trying to say, I've got another system. I need to talk about how my system is going to, number one, do what the other two do, which is make money for people. And number two, how we're going to differentiate ourselves and gain some market share. That's this guy's goal, is to basically put that step forward. When you start throwing in little things like this platform's proven its worth and this platform's mysterious, what are you even doing? And again, you may have a different point of view from me on this, which is fine, but I don't inherently care or want to care what the kind of background politics and the ideology is of a lot of the stores I frequent. Now, if you do, that's fine. But for me, you have to work really hard to make yourself an annoyance before I'll start thinking about that. When I walk into Home Depot or Walmart or Target, I stop to get gas for my car, I do not want to be driving down the road going, ooh, I can't stop at Shell because Shell, one of the board members went hunting in Africa, and I don't support that, so therefore I can't get gas at Shell. I'll go to Texaco, but ooh, the guy at Texaco bought a house in a state that has unregulated something or other, and I can't support that. So maybe I'll keep driving down the road and hope I can get to a gas station that I don't have a feeling about. For God's sake, I just want gas. That's how I feel. And again, this is not insulting you. If you have a particular kind of political cause you care about, you know that a shop either supports or doesn't support it, go nuts. I'm happy for you. I don't do that kind of thing. Again, if you work really, really, really hard at it, and there are some companies that have done that, where they have gone out of their way to be annoying. There was a company, an online service that pre-election sent out a giant mail to every single one of their customers, basically, this very shrill mail saying, if you don't vote a certain way, the world's going to come to an end. And I was like, well, I'm not using that service anymore. Not because I didn't like the candidate, or not because of anything to do with the candidate, because I do not want to be spammed a bunch of political nonsense from a company that is, handling my payroll. That is, nope. That is a sign that you are now intruding. You're breaking the very basic world that I've tried to create, which is to just give me your product and let me sell it, or buy it or consume it or whatever it happens to be, and not mess the other stuff into it. That's my perspective. Again, not knocking you if you feel differently. But when it comes to Kickstarter and Indiegogo, I think there needs to be other options. I think there needs to be other methods. And I think the world needs to be looking at what happens after these guys. Because at some point, if we want to lower the cost of comics, and I think we do, if we want to try and make the system better and better and better, at some point, not today, not tomorrow, not next year, those systems, Kickstarter and Indiegogo, should either go away, or there should be very viable options that takes them out of the chain. And I'm not saying this for ideological reasons. I'm saying this for profit reasons. As somebody who wants to keep as much of the money possible when you're creating a product and get it out there, we want other options. We want competition. I welcome that. And I think that's how it should be. This is the real world. But this attempt to kind of bring in all these other things, it's sad. And one of the problems comics has had, which has hurt it, and I think definitively you can point to how this has actually hurt comics, hurt creators, taken money out of the pockets of people who I wish had more money, is that there is this very strange desire to control and keep it our clubhouse. And in doing so, they have basically taken opportunities and money away, not just from customers who may or may not be frustrated by this stuff, but it stifles innovation. The fact that that people are saying, well, look, nobody can use Indiegogo because it's bad think platform, and everybody should use Kickstarter. Well, one of the side effects of that is, what motivation does Kickstarter have to be competitive? If within the comic industry you've got this narrative that if you don't use our platform, you're a bad person, what are they going to do to make sure that they're responding to, how projects get funded, how money gets distributed, how taxes are collected, how their tool and platform works? Whenever you have only one game in town and you create fictional reasons why you should have to use it based on, I don't know, opinion or ideology or that kind of thing, you take away the ability for them to innovate and disrupt. And we need innovation disruption, always. This has nothing to do with politics. This has nothing to do with ideology. It has to do with, we need these systems to evolve. And if you start putting this baggage onto it, like has happened here in this article and other things, I feel bad for this Plosky guy with Zoop, because why did he get wrapped up in all this nonsense? Why, like, if I'm being interviewed and somebody starts making comments like that, I'm like, okay, you clearly don't want to interview me. You want to make another point. I don't want a part of that. We need to get in comics. It is only hurt comics by doing this. Well, this is the way it works, and if you can't comply, then you don't belong, and we're going to kind of keep you out. All that does is stifle innovation. All that does is takes money out of people's pockets. As I said on the launch stream, I'm looking forward to a day where no, there's not an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter involved at all in this process. And I had somebody mail me like, "Oh, are you upset at the way they won't censor bad people?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to give them their cut." The end. That is it. I want to have a system where I pay them nothing. I want to pay people who are providing value to the system. And today, Kickstarter, Indiegogo do provide value to content creators. But long term, we should be looking at a world where we don't need them. And I don't say that meanly. I'm not saying, I hope they get destroyed. I think they will always provide some services that will be helpful to some people. But once you have your feet under you, once you run a couple of campaigns, once you kind of know the system, I think everybody who's done that starts to think, how do I do it without them? And then I keep, an extra percentage of that pie. That's the goal. Anyway, a lot of things in here. And again, I understand this entire topic has been heavily politicized of Indiegogo versus Kickstarter, to the point that if you run something on Indiegogo, I mean, when I announced during the streams, and this is on Indiegogo first, why was it? Because the guy who's collecting the money, the actual, Larry, the guy who's, I'm the producer here, the guy who's actually making the comic, that was easier for him. Just financially. Zero politics involved. It was easier. And I've spoken on this before. Platforms have some differences, some fundamental differences to how they operate in terms of the finances, how money is collected, how it's distributed. That one worked better for him. The end. That's the only reason. And immediately when it was up there, people were like, "Oh, you're Comicsgate." It's like, see, we got that knee-jerk reaction to everything is hurting innovation. That doesn't help anybody, no matter what group you belong to. The lack of innovation, the lack of disruption will make us all poorer. It will not move things forward. So, I guess go where the money is. Thanks for listening.